Ellie's Culture Craving. I hope you like this little setup. It's kind of cute. I like it. This is my bookcase. I've got no idea if this is going to work at all. Today we are doing the Dark Academia book tag. It was started by Emma and Carolyn. One of whom is Canadian, the other of whom lives in New York, I believe. They're both students and they like dark academia, and dark academia is something that I'm just getting into, like I'm just learning about the aesthetic, so I thought I would do the tag to learn a little bit more about it and talk about books a bit. So let's start. First of all, what is your favourite academia book or dark academia book? So mine is The Bloody Chamber. This was a text I studied for my A-levels and I just poured over it. Like, you can see my annotations in it. I was just obsessed with it. I loved it, and I still love Angela Carter. It's basically fairy tales, but a lot more gory and a lot more dark and a lot more sexual, and just, oh my god, it's so brilliant. And I loved it. My copy is a bit worn now, but it was dark, it was fun. It definitely falls into the academic part as well because it's got so many intertextual references. It's for a very literate person and it would take you years to go through every reference made by Angela Carter in this text. It is incredibly dense but beautiful and exciting, and it was definitely my favourite book to study and one of my favourite books to read ever. And the second part of question one is your favourite academia or dark movie, and my favourite academia movie is one that I literally just watched, and that is Educating Rita, and the music in it is horrific. However, the story and the aesthetic was just so good. It was sort of a woman who just wanted to learn above all else and carve her own path. It was a very interesting relationship between her and the professor who was teaching her, and I was really worried they were going to make it like sexual romantic, which would have totally ruined the story, but they kept it as a friendship, which I was really pleased about because that is what was right for the story. And yeah, I just loved it so much. I think if we're talking about academic movies, that's one I think you should really watch. What dead poet would you like to have a drink with? Poetry is not my strong point. I much prefer plays and I much prefer novels to poetry. However, recently I stumbled across Sappho. If you do not know who Sappho is, like myself a few months ago, you are living an empty life. I had no idea about Sappho's existence, which I think is a sad example of how the education system is failing its students. So basically, Sappho was an ancient Greek lyricist, and her poems have been recorded over time by people who read and write. This is obviously translated from Greek. We just have a lot of fragments left, really. There aren't a lot of full poems. However, this edition kind of makes the fragments into poems, which I do quite like. It just makes it, you get a sort of sense of completion and consistency. But she was a woman, she was queer, she speaks about liking women, she writes about women, she writes about friendships between women. I mean, as a feminist, I don't understand how you can get through your life without reading Sappho. I mean, she's the first woman writer that we have in the Western world, and she was gay, potentially. You know, how have I not known this? Yeah, I found it really inspiring. A lot of the quotes really moved me. Let me find a couple. Oh yeah, this is one that I really like, and I am thinking about getting it like printed in a frame, but it's "Come girls, beat your fists down upon your breasts and shred your dresses." I think it's just an invitation for women, to be wild and feral and live your life. I think it's beautiful. That's my favourite quote. There are lots of others that I have written down, but I could literally do that all day. So what is your favourite painting and or sculpture? So I've gone for painting. I took two visits to the National Gallery this year when I was living in London. Both times I sort of saw the same stuff, but the Artist who particularly stuck out to me was Monet. I know it's a bit of a cliche answer, as is Van Gogh, which is my second answer, but seriously, it really blew me away. Like, the colours are just so rich in comparison to the rest of the museum. It's just so alive. So the particular painting that I saw and loved was water lilies, but it's not the typical water lilies that everybody knows because that's not in London, but the water lilies I saw was water lilies setting sun, and I way prefer it. I love the pinks in it. I think it's beautiful. What is your favourite architectural marvel? This was a difficult question, but I think I'm gonna go with the Colosseum. I went to Rome last year and the Colosseum kind of blew my mind. I was between the Colosseum and the Taj Mahal, which I've also seen, but I'm going with the Colosseum because the fact that it's been there for thousands of years, and when you look at it, it's just an arena essentially, and it's the exact same shape we use for arenas today, and that kind of blew my mind. Like, as humans, the way we do entertainment, although vastly different with the introduction of technology, if we're doing live entertainment, it's exactly the same, and we do this across the world, across time. Just kind of blew my mind a little bit. What Shakespeare play would you like to be the lead in? I've read quite a few Shakespeares now. Let me list them off. So Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, Midsummer Night's Dream, The Tempest, Antony and Cleopatra, Romeo and Juliet, Taming of the Shrew. So I've done 8 now, which is pretty good. My favourite of all of those was, without a doubt, Antony and Cleopatra. It just so took me. I was desperate to see what happened. Hamlet is a close second. I studied it in so much depth at A-level that I feel like I really know it, and it holds a special place in my heart. Therefore, there was not a moment of studying Hamlet that I disliked. It just totally wrapped me up. But playing Ophelia, whilst it could be fun being crazy, you're not playing the lead in the same way as Antony and Cleopatra. When you're playing Cleopatra, she's just so strong and fun and sassy, and she's a leader, and oh my god, she's just so spoiled, but in a way that you would expect a queen to be, and oh, I just love her character so much. And yeah, I so want to see the play in real life at some point, as soon as possible, basically, because she just took me so much. So yes, I would love to play her. How many languages do you speak, and which language would you most like to learn? So I speak English, mais je peux parler français aussi. I study French as part of my degree. I got a B in my A-levels for French, but I was 3 marks off an A. There's a lot I don't know, but I can read French, speak French, listen to French, all of that jazz. So yes, French. I would most like to learn Italian next. I'm going to Korea next year, fingers crossed. It's not booked or anything yet, it's just my plan. I'm going to South Korea, so it would be fun to learn some Korean while I'm there. I don't have any other languages that I'm like, I must do this before I die. Like, I've learnt a second language, that's more than most English people. I'm doing good, but I would like to do some Italian, and Spanish would be a good plus as well. What is your favourite quote from poetry, prose, plays, etc.? So I am choosing one from A Doll's House, which again I studied at A-levels. Like, I swear I know other books, it's just that these ones particularly took me because I spent 2 years studying them, so I know them so well that they really have become my favourites, a lot of them. Dracula not included. That was a horrible book. This little scene in the back, I felt it so deeply. It's not really one quote, I'm just going to read you out a few things that Nora says. By the way, this is huge spoilers. If you want to read A Doll's House, this is probably not good. So basically, Nora decides to leave her husband. Our home has never been anything but a playroom. I've been your doll wife, just as I used to be Papa's doll child, and the children have been my dolls. And then this one I think is my favourite of the lot, but there's something else I must do first. I must educate myself. And I think that's just so powerful, the idea that before you can be a wife, before you can be a teacher, before you can be a mother, you must be yourself, as men are allowed to be. And obviously in the 21st century we're kind of there, but a lot of us aren't. I mean, I'm reading The Feminine Mystique at the moment by Betty Friedan, and it actually touches on this because in the 50s and 60s, a lot of women were giving up this mindset and going straight into being wives. Is something that I hold very dear to myself and my idea of my life, and that is be yourself, learn about the world, educate yourself, and then later down the line you can think about being a wife. But as part of that, you can be yourself and you don't have to give up your education or travelling or your career in order to be a wife. Like, they can come hand in hand and you don't have to give up one for the other. Nora says, what do you call my most sacred duties? Helma, do I have to tell you your duties towards your husband and your children? Nora says, I have another duty which is equally sacred, my duty towards myself. And Helma says, first and foremost, you are a wife and mother. Then Nora says, I don't believe that any longer. I believe that I am first and foremost a human being like you. So powerful. I must think things out for myself and try to find my own answer. Now I intend to learn. I think that's everything about education in that. I just think those few things she says about learning and educating herself and living on her own and doing her own thing is so relevant and so powerful, and is definitely the way I've been raised as a girl, because so many girls and women give up that chance in order to be girlfriends and wives, and it's just not something that I'm going to do. I do have a boyfriend and I love him very much, but I think in order for me to be successful and to have a happy life, I need to educate myself first. Which fictional character's death is your ideal way to go? Now, I found this hard, but one that I went with was Jay Gatsby's death in The Great Gatsby. This is a particularly nice copy that I own. Oh my god, this is another one I studied for my A-levels. I'm sure there's loads others, but it's just hard to pick off the top of your head. So I would like to be shot if I'm going to die, unless I'm dying naturally. I mean, I guess that would be the best way to die, but I assume we're not talking about that. Yes, if I could die of old age, that would be ideal, but yes, if I have to be killed, then the way Jay Gatsby goes would be great, being shot. However, the circumstances around which he is killed I would not like, because he doesn't deserve to be shot, arguably. Like, he's shot for a reason, for a false understanding, a misunderstanding essentially, and then he's just left alone in his pool, which is kind of sad. So I guess that's not really the way I'd like to die, but I think over being killed slowly, that is the way I'd like to go. What university or college would you most like to attend? My dream university is Stanford University in America. I could never afford to go. I was thinking about doing a master's there when I finish, but there aren't really master's programs for literature at Stanford. You have to go for a PhD essentially, and so it's not really worth it. I don't really want to spend my whole 20s studying. And UCL, where I am right now, is such an amazing university, and I'm kind of there. I think it's top 10 in the world now. It's just gone down to, as all English universities have this year. But yeah, it's top 10 in the world, and that's pretty cool. So I'm kind of there. There's not much more I'd really want. What is your murder weapon or murder method of choice? If we're talking about emotional attachment, I would have to go with a gun, because it's so like separate from the death, like in L'Étranger by Albert Camus. Like, you're so separate from it, like you're shooting and then a person dies. It's not like stabbing someone, which is so like intimate and like very much what you do leads to the death, whereas if you shoot, it's just kind of separate from you. So I think if I was going to kill someone, I'd want to kill them that way, and also it's just less messy. But if we're talking wanting to avoid prison, that's probably not the way to go, because it's pretty easy to find who's shot someone, or at least find the gun. So I mean, not the best way. However, emotion wise, that would be the way. Not that I have anyone to kill. What mythology would you most like to be a part of? This one took some thinking, because when you hear mythology, you instantly just go Grecian mythology, ancient Greece. But I'm not sure that's true for me. I think the mythology that I would like is Arthurian legend. The fairies, the magic, the knights. It's like the medieval world that we want to be real, rather than, you know, the mess and the grossness that is the real medieval life, like the courts and the just world. And I just think it would be great. Even being a witch in that world would be great. I feel like that sort of English mythology is one that I grew up with. Fairies was so important to my childhood, and so I think that's definitely the one for me. If you had to do a PhD, what would you choose to do it on? I mean, realistically, if I was going to do a PhD, I'd do it in what I'm doing for my undergraduate, so I'd just do comparative literature PhD. What I would specialise in, I have absolutely no idea. I don't even know what I'm going to do my dissertation in this year. Oh my god, I'm not doing a dissertation this year, in a few years. I don't know what I'd specialise in. I think probably something to do with women or fantasy. I like fantasy a lot. You don't find a lot of fantasy in classic literature, which is something that is sad. So yeah, maybe something magical, maybe something to do with women. I mean, like I say, I absolutely loved Sappho, so maybe something to do with ancient Greeks. However, I'm not really interested in the rest of them. I'm just so interested in Sappho because LGBTQ plus and women, brilliant. Maybe something to do with sex and relationships. Yeah, that's kind of my interest. And then, which fictional character would you die for? As this is my favourite book, problematic though it is, and I think you can like something whilst admitting that it has horrendous problems, Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Gone with the Wind is my favourite book of all time. I just loved it. And Scarlett, I just had so much faith in her. She was so strong and powerful and gutsy. Yeah, I loved her. So I would say Scarlett. Okay, we're on to rapid fire and I have to pick one. So leather-bound or cloth-bound? Cloth-bound, definitely. These are my cloth-bound classics. Cloth-bound classics. I love them. They're beautiful. Although I have recently got this leather-bound version of the Iliad and the Odyssey. My boyfriend got this for me. It's got gold pages. It's so pretty. This is my next read, I think, after I've finished The Feminine Mystique. Actually, no, Americana is my next read because I have that on hold. But then after that, it's definitely this. I'm actually doing a summer school in Homer, so this could be very handy. But this is leather-bound, and I think it's my first real leather-bound book, but it's beautiful and I adore it. Dog earing pages or highlighting pages? Dog earing. I'm a really bad dog earer. Is that a word? Yeah, I've got a really bad habit of that. I find it very difficult to find a bookmark, like 99% of the time, and yeah, I'm really bad for dog earing things. Highlighting is not something I regularly do. Sculptures or paintings? Paintings. Piano or violin? I play piano, so I'm gonna have to go with piano. Films or theatre? Now, I thought about this one. If we're talking in terms of dark academia, theatre. Because I don't watch that many films, certainly not intellectual academic films. The films that I watch are pathetic teenage crap, which are fun. Like films and TV shows is where I really zone out. Whereas going to the theatre, I think I'd be more inclined to do my academic stuff, which is what I really love. And films is just kind of like free time. So I'm not passionate about films, whereas I am passionate about theatre. Poetry or prose? Prose every time. Museums or bookshops? This one got me, right? Because I love museums. I didn't know this before last year, but when I started in London, I went to quite a few museums. I went to the Natural History Museum, National Gallery, British Museum. Is that it? That might be it. But the British Museum particularly, I went in lots of times, found it fascinating, and it was where I would go for solace during my studies. I think bookshops also though are so special, and without bookshops I would not have books. So I think I'm gonna have to go with bookshops because also I love how silent they are, and yeah, they just feel really special. So I'm gonna have to, but I don't know. No, I'm gonna go with bookshops. Smell of books or smell of coffee/tea? Books. I don't drink coffee or tea. Fountain pen or typewriter? Oh my god. Typewriter, because I am messy. New or used books? See, I love a used book. I really love a used book. I love when you buy a book and it's got someone else's notes in. I find that so special and so exciting. So I think I'm gonna have to go with used books, but not my own used books. My own used books are kind of dull, although they are special because they have all my notes in, and yeah, they just become mine. Whereas new books, like this is not a new book, but it still feels like a new book because I don't think I've actually opened it or broken the spine on it, and that's kind of special. I don't know. I'm gonna go with used. Okay, so that is the Dark Academia book tag. I really hope you've enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe to my channel and also my main channel, which I'll link here. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.